Alrighty folks, I hope you're doing well. Today I got a topic I am super excited to get into. This might be the most excited I've ever been to make a video for the channel so far, to be honest with you. So let's just get started. Alright. Are you overbowed? When you draw your bow back, are you struggling? What does it even mean to be overbowed? And why do people always have something to say about it online? I want to talk about what it even means to be overbowed first and foremost. And then I want to go over how you can even decide if you yourself are overbowed. We're going to try to find some objectivity within this topic, because let me tell you, people online love to say one of two things when it comes to archery. They love telling you that you're pulling too much weight, and they love telling you how much experience they have and why you should believe them over your own physical capabilities. When I first heard about overbowed and that you could even be overbowed, I wanted to know what it was, right? And at the time, what it came down to was if you couldn't sit down flat on the ground and draw your bow back, you were overbowed, apparently. That was one of the definitions that I found when I originally heard about the term. Now, everyone's got their own definition. And it changes every single time you follow that definition, because people always have something to say. Nowadays, being overbowed could mean that you can't shoot 100 arrows in a session without getting tired. That might mean you're overbowed to some people. Some other people would say that if you don't pull the bow back fast enough, you're overbowed. Or if you bicep draw, you're overbowed. Or maybe you pull back too fast and you can't do it slow and controlled, and so you're overbowed. Maybe some people would say if you can't shoot 25 arrows straight without a break, you're overbowed. So what is it? And it seems like whenever you do one of these things, you follow one of these definitions, someone else has something to say about why that isn't a valid way of seeing if you're overbowed. So we're going to get to the objectivity of it today. We're going to find the definition that is as true as possible, right? So let's start with the one sitting down. That's some uneven ground we got here. So for test number one here, as I said, this was the first way of testing if you're overbowed. Man, this ground is weird and weirdly shaped. I saw it in an elk-shaped video, and it said that if you can't draw your bow back while sitting flat on the ground like this, legs out, and just draw it back, it means you're overbowed. And their argument for it is because when you're sitting like this, you can't use any other parts of your body. It is just your upper body. You're not somehow able to, lean backwards or, move your hips in a weird way, or it makes bicep drawing harder or whatever, you know what I mean? That was the theory behind it. To me, this makes some sense. And for a while, this is what I considered a good test. I'll get to why I don't consider it a fantastic test. I think it's a decent benchmark, but I don't think it's the only thing that matters. As I said, I'll show you here what it looks like. This is 76 pounds, the same weight I've been drawing in most of my videos, sitting flat on the ground. This is technically the first take. You're just gonna have to take my word on that. I don't know if I'm actually, let me make sure I'm in frame here. Okay, here we go. That wasn't the smoothest, but we got it back. In that case, I'd be curious to see what people have to say. Here, we'll do it one more time. So I'm going to include that first take in the video because I think it brings up a good point. One, to the people that say you should be able to draw it while sitting flat, I wonder what they would say to a draw like that. It obviously wasn't the smoothest, but I got it back. So what does that mean? Oh, I'm overbowed still even though I did it? Or no, in that case, you got it back, you're fine. You know what I mean? What is it? Oh, you actually went too slow. So instead of just saying you did it, I'm actually going to retract what I said about being able to draw it sitting down. You were too slow. So now there's a speed requirement to it. I think for a lot of people, sitting like this is awkward and they're not used to it. That could be a reason too. So I'm going to do it again, because now we have no excuses, right? No excuses. And we should just theoretically be able to get it back because we're used to it now, right? Another case where it was decently slow to get back. Now listen, I actually don't mind that test as a test to see if you are overbowed. Of course, I think there's more to it than sitting flat on the ground like that and drawing back. But I think it brings up a good point, and I'd be curious to see what someone who uses that way of measuring it would say about it. Now, as I've said before, this is 76 pounds. I've shot, including those 2 arrows, maybe 32 total arrows at that weight. I'm getting used to it, right? When I'm shooting like I normally do, standing up, as you guys have seen in a short or a video, I like to think my draw is pretty smooth, pretty consistent for the most part. If we're measuring how overbowed someone is by how many arrows they can shoot in one session, I would imagine a lot of bow hunters would probably fail that test. And we even saw it, in my video, my recent post from last Friday, where I was shooting Vegas style archery. You know, I shot maybe at the time only 9 arrows and then went down to 70 pounds, a weight I'm more used to and comfortable with, right? That brings me up to another point. Let's get back in the chair and continue talking. Now, when I say this, I genuinely do mean it. Those 2 shots that you witnessed me shoot where I was sitting on the ground were my first 2 shots at this weight within, you know, like I said, 30 total shots since switching. Those are my first 2 shots. First time I've even tried it with that weight. Be the first to admit, they weren't perfect, they were slow. But to the people that use that as a measurement, does that count? Or are we gonna switch up? Are we gonna say, no, it was too slow, you did it, but it doesn't count? Or are we gonna say, no, you did it, even if it was slow, you did it? That shows that, theoretically, when you're shooting the way you would normally shoot, you're proficient at it. What does it mean, okay? That's just one point I wanted to bring up. The next one I wanted to get into real quick was, I received a comment on my short from this Monday, so yesterday, at the time of filming this. I'm filming this Tuesday, but I'm not trying to call this guy out, not trying to say he's wrong, but I received a comment on my archery form short. And though I wasn't asking for it, he wanted to mention that I was maybe pulling too much weight because I was shaky in the back wall. I was shaky in the back wall in that clip. I'll have you know, that was the first recording. I could have retaken it. I noticed I was shaky. Could have retaken it, but I wanted to post it anyways. That's not to say, you know, hey, I gotcha. It's just show a level of genuineness, I guess. But anyways, he essentially said that I'm shaky in the back wall because I'm pulling too much weight. I should go down because when hunting season comes around and it's cold, I'm not gonna be able to get it back. And this brings up a great point. Well, great point for me, not a great point for him necessarily. It's a weird mentality that I've seen in the archery community where, did that just die on me? Where people have this idea that you have to be married to a draw weight. Once you pick a weight, you've got to stick with it forever, which is an interesting mentality to me. Like I did in the video I posted this last Friday, shooting target style archery, which is doing very well. That video is doing the best on my channel so far. Started at 76, the weight I've been working at, and dropped down to 70 pounds in the same session. You don't see people do that for some reason. It's like it's almost like it's a sin in the archery community. It's like it's forbidden. How dare you? You're supposed to be at one weight forever, it seems like. And if you move up, and you can't pull it back immediately perfectly, you got to drop back down. It's an interesting mentality, and it's one I wanted to talk about. Like I've said, switched to this weight a little while ago, have maybe 30 to 35 shots through it. and I like to think I've made some incredible progress. When I put these mods in, I couldn't drop back. Literally could not get it back. It took me 5 attempts to get it back finally. Within 30 shots, I like to think I'm pretty proficient at it now. But that goes back to, am I still overbowed? And that's another thing that we're gonna get into here. So he brought this commenter that I'm referring to. If I had the comment with me, I would quote it, but it's an interesting thing to notice. Like, yes, I was shaky in the back wall, and I totally acknowledge it. I knew it when I filmed it. I could feel it as I'm back, actually. I knew what I was doing. Going to draw weight first is an interesting way of looking at it. I feel like draw length, if anything, would be the natural thing to say, but he went to draw weight, and maybe because he genuinely thinks it's draw weight, and it theoretically could be since it's a new weight and I'm not getting used to it. He didn't know that it was a new weight, so there's a presumption there. But I think it says a lot about archers online love to talk about draw weight. They love it. It is undoubtedly, to the average archery commenter, the average archery online enthusiast, it is second nature to mention someone's draw weight in a clip or a video, a picture even, believe it or not. They love doing it. And as I mentioned in the video this is actually gonna go perfect hand in hand. The video I'm posting in a couple days from when this one goes up this Friday, my usual upload day, I talk about why shoot high draw weight. And these two topics go hand in hand too. But if we're talking about being overbowed again, and the point of this video is to help you decide if you are or aren't, and what to go by. And I think the only way that we can get to as close to an objective way of measuring this is if you can't reliably, which even that word, saying reliably, that's subjective, but I'm gonna say it here. If you can't reliably and comfortably draw your bow back when you are in the scenarios that you tend to find yourself in with your bow, that could be so many things, and that's why I'm wording it that way, then it might be time to consider dropping in weight a little bit, just for the time being. Listen to that again. You don't have to drop down and never go back up again. It's something you can work towards. So to the people that say, in a way, how dare you shoot whatever you're shooting? Go down and wait. Are you stupid? Why pull all that weight? You clearly can't pull that weight, apparently. So drop down. And then wait until season goes by. It's like, it is April 23rd. I've got 5 months until season starts here in Minnesota. That's 5 months of time that I can spend trying to get used to a new weight to eventually become proficient at it. It's such a one-way, one-sided mindset, a view, if you will. It's like people think that you have to immediately be perfect at a certain draw weight the second you go up to it in order to not be overbowed and to pull it well and to be a good archer, essentially. The idea that people can go up and wait, because believe it or not, you actually have to try a new thing to eventually get good at it. You can't just pull 70 pounds your whole life and then expect to just go up to 76 and be perfect at it. It just doesn't work that way. You have to eventually try that new weight first and get the body to begin its acclimation process there. As I said, that's looked down upon in the archery community, apparently. You're not allowed to do that. You got to be perfect immediately. Anyways, I digress. Let's go back to what I was saying about finding this objective, as close to objective middle ground as possible. And if this is the only thing you get from this video, that's totally fine. Whatever weight you're shooting, if you're a bow hunter, target archer, it does not matter. It doesn't matter what you do with it. In the scenarios that you find yourself shooting your bow, if you can't get that bow back when you want to, there's a chance you're overbowed. That's the only way that you, for yourself, can decide if you're overbowed. The people online that are watching you draw back, they don't know. Okay? They do not know. They don't know the whole story. And unless you want to explain it to them every single time, which would be exhausting, you're going to have people commenting. Even if you explain it, you're going to have people commenting. They love doing it. Personally, I used that one comment that I referred to earlier from the short that I posted this last Monday. Fantastic motivation, if anything. Got right into the gym, had my shoulder day. It was a good day too. Great motivation nonetheless. And again, I encourage those comments. I love seeing them. It's good engagement nonetheless. But that's what I wanted to talk about. Acknowledge that there are so many different ways to measure this overbowed term and this idea. So many different ways to doing it. Now, the last thing I want to add, there is still some objective truth to, like the picture I showed in my video this last Friday. I'll show it again here. If you look like that kid pulling the bow back, it's as close to being objectively true as possible that, hey, you're probably overbowed, right? Sure, you got it back, but I mean, the way that he's drawing that bow, that could be an issue. Actually unsafe in that case, right? You know, and form kind of plays a role in this too, but we'll leave that for a different point there. But that's really what I wanted to get into. This should be a relatively short upload. For today, you'll have a short and then this video as well to view. This is one of those videos that I kind of hope gets traction. I hope this one is one of the ones that becomes more viewed on my channel than the average, because I think it could spark a lot of debate, and I like that. I like conversation. And I can only imagine the kind of comments I'd get if this one did do well. But anyways, the point is, keep doing you. Figure out what works best for you. There are some decent measurements to go off of, like I mentioned, but none of them are absolute. All that matters are the scenarios that you put yourself in with that bow, and if you can still perform with that bow. That's all I wanted to get into today. Hope you got some out of it, as usual. I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy, guys.